Welcome to On the Fly College Edition, a podcast presented by Playfly Sports. I'm your host, Gene DeFilippo. Playfly Sports is the full-service marketing and media company bringing digitally enabled innovations to the sports industry. Welcome to On the Fly College Edition. I'm your host, Gene DeFilippo, and our guest today is the extremely successful Director of Athletics at the University of Washington, Jen Cohen. Jen, it's great to have you here.
Great to see you, Gene. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, so am I. So am I. Jen, you have achieved so much, and for a long time, women were not given the opportunities that they probably should have been given to become a director of athletics. I know there's a lot of young administrators out there, both men and women, but I'd like for you to share your story with them, beginning at college and how you worked your way up the ladder.
Yeah, it was my dream to do this, right? To be a college athletic director, a childhood dream, in fact. But no path, right, Gene, is as simple as we think it is, or as clear as we think it is. There's been a lot of starts and stops and different turns along the way. I graduated, my undergraduate work was at San Diego State University. And then I went on to get my master's degree at a small college, Pacific Lutheran University here in Tacoma, Washington. So, I started off in small school athletics. I was at a D3 school. I coached volleyball at POU. And then when I graduated with my master's, my first job out of grad school was University of Puget Sound. And I was the only full-time person, Gene, on the entire athletic department staff that didn't coach. So, yeah, I was a small athletic department. I was the facilities manager. I was the recruiting coordinator. Eventually, I oversaw compliance. So I had, a number of different jobs, all at the small school level. And my dream was to work in Division I athletics, and I wanted to work at UW. But every time I go and talk to an informational interview, every time all I heard was, "You're not there. You're working at too small of a school, and you need to get Division I experience." So my whole path, I think about how you get to where you are, and one, you never do it by yourself. You have a lot of different people along the way that change your life and experiences to give you opportunities and be partners in that. And I had that experience for sure after I decided to leave University of Puget Sound after 3 years. I was 28 years old, had a master's degree, had been working in college athletic for several years, small school level, and I took an endowed internship. I don't know if you know this story, Gene, but I was...
I don't. I'm excited to hear it.
Really a neat story because I was given what's called the Janine McCaney Endowed Internship at Texas Tech University. And I was hired by Judy Henry, who has since left Tech, but she basically hired me in this position that was created by Janine, who had passed away of cancer. And in her will, she set up this endowment to go to a young female aspiring to be a college athletic director. And she knew at the time that women were just not getting opportunities to work in the industry. And so she specifically set this up for that. And so 24 years ago now I took that internship. I went to Lubbock, Texas, sight unseen, made $1,000 a month in a cockroach infested apartment, had the year of my life, and eventually became the first woman recipient of that internship to become a college athletic director. So, I just think about that, just to press pause, somebody I never knew that had been a pioneer before me gave support and resources and vision for a young aspiring female who didn't have a lot of people telling her she could. That changed my entire trajectory of my career. So I am forever grateful to Janine and also to Judy and Texas Tech for the opportunity that was provided. Year after that, I landed an entry-level development job at the University of Washington. I had no development experience. I had worked on the internal side, and then I had done this internship at Texas Tech. And I like to tell this story because I think people always think there's this perfect way to get there. And I got the job at Washington because I had met a donor who had been a big baseball supporter at University of Washington, who my husband at the time had happened to just be a coach for a team that he sponsored. And the donor took a liking to me and didn't like the fact that I was in Texas and my husband was in Washington. He called the athletic director, Barbara Hedges, and said, I got a girl. You got to hire this girl. And Barbara's like, she has no development experience. I'm not hiring her. And he said, just give her a chance, give her an interview. And I interviewed and convinced Barbara to give me an opportunity. And, we could spend the whole podcast. I don't want to bore you with it. I think you can ask questions, but I spent the next 24 years, being at Washington, growing, changing, developing. I left athletics and did academic fundraising. My bread and butter is really revenue generation. That's what I love. And that's where I was, that's kind of the experiences I had at UW to keep creating more opportunities for me. But yeah, 6 years ago, I was named the athletic director, and I just feel like I was at the right place at the right time with the right set of experiences and people around me to support me to give me this opportunity.
Well, you've certainly done a great job. One thing about starting at a small school, though, and I have some experience doing this. I started out at a Division II school at Youngstown State in Ohio.
Yeah.
I was an assistant football coach, and you did everything. We were the weight coaches, we were the academic counselors. At a smaller school, you get to do a whole lot of different things, and I think that really prepared me for later on when I made it to a Division I school. I had done a number of different things.
I feel the same way. I look back on that time, and that was such a foundational time in my career, especially like deeply rooted in values that still come true every single day in the work. And I think one of it is like, you are never bigger than you think you are. Like everybody makes it, right? Like you're in these jobs to serve other people. So no matter what level you're at, no matter how big you get, no matter how big your budgets are, how much winning you have, at the end of the day, your success is based on a lot of other people. And so D3 athletics taught me that. Like it taught me like humility as far as like, you're really just there to work on behalf of others. And I loved it because it was so pure, and student athletes didn't have scholarships and they just wanted to be part of, they wanted to compete just to compete. There wasn't a lot of transaction that was going on. And so I think just that level of service and also grit, like just like I was fixing the shot clock off the ladder and sweeping the floors. And like to this day, if I had to get up on that shot clock, I would, in that ladder to fix it, I wouldn't think twice. Like I would just think that's what you do to get a job done. And so I'm grateful I never started in an environment where you had a lot of resources, because I'm not sure if I had the same, value for the work if I did.
Yeah. I remember having to help shovel the field at Youngstown State before the game, so that we were shoveling the lines, the yard stripes. And then I remember one of my first years here at Boston College, we were playing Rutgers after Thanksgiving, and we got a snowfall, and we had to hire people. And heck, I grabbed the shovel and I just joined them. That's the way you and I were brought up. So
I think so. It's funny, just to sidebar here, our volleyball coach, Keegan Cook, phenomenal coach, took us to the Final Four in the spring and then the Sweet 16 in the fall. We traveled together last week to a basketball game, and he was telling me about his early years when he was at St. Mary's and how in a weekend's time, he built an outdoor volleyball, a beach volleyball facility over a weekend. And I was just like, and he's so much younger than me, and he's so successful, and he's so deeply rooted in these amazing values and work ethic. And I thought that was such a cool story. Like he's newer at this than we are, but he still had an experience where he knew what that was like when nothing was given to him and he had to go build it with other people, and how rewarding that feels.
That is definitely rewarding.
Yeah.
Hey, Jen, what advice would you give to a younger Jen Cohen at the start of your career?
Oh, I have a lot of things. I mean, first is to not take yourself so seriously. Like if I were just talking about like looking back, is like, one, don't take it all so seriously. Two, try to stop controlling everything and everybody else and just like do your, do you, the sooner you can figure out who you are, what you're about, what matters to you, what, the kind of environment you want to work in, and you start to really develop this inside out confidence, the further along I think you can get in your career. And I think I just put a lot of pressure on myself when I was younger to please other people, or you wasn't always clear about what I wanted because I was so worried about what other people wanted. And so I think that, and then also just recognizing this, nothing's put in a perfect package. Anything that's worth doing is hard. It's hard to do hard things. It's supposed to be hard.
Yes.
So I would give myself that advice too.
That's great. Jen, you work with so many other ADs and so many coaches and through the years. When we all talk about leadership and providing leadership for the group, what are some of the essential characteristics that a successful leader should have?
Yeah, I mean, one, I would just say this. I've seen a lot of, as you have, I've seen a lot of different leaders that have had success that are very different sets of values, different sets of purpose. So I do think that to acknowledge that leadership should be authentic, and the best leaders actually are authentic to what they're about, and they found a way to find their passion. So to me, leadership is all about having your own purpose and passion, and then using that to inspire others and encourage, influence others to help them reach their full potential too. But I also, and we have Chris Peterson, who has a tremendous impact on me from a leadership standpoint. We talk about this all the time. The leadership also has nothing to do with anybody else but you. Like, you have to be incredibly self-aware, and you have to work on accountability yourself. I think the days of being the leader that just tells other people what to do and hope that they follow you are long gone. And so our own development of ourselves needs to be at the forefront of being a great leader. And I think self-awareness is central to that.
Well, that's well said. You talk about Chris Peterson. He did a terrific job at Boise State, and then he did a terrific job at Washington. You said he had an effect on you. In what way? How can you explain that?
I think about this. So this is just bigger picture, but the reason why I like sports so much is that what it teaches us in competition, right? The lessons that are learned, the lessons that are taught in competition. And so, because they reflect life. So we hit roadblocks, we hit speed bumps, we have comebacks, we have triumphs, right? And what Chris really taught me was what I watched him in all those moments, whether it was, one of the hardest moments or one of the best moments. He had consistency. He was consistent in every moment he was in. So the highs were never too high, the lows were never too low. And there was a set of discipline around that like really inspired me, like really taught me, because I really didn't actually, I can influence people. I'm very passionate, but I could ride the roller coaster like everybody else. And as you know, once we get into these jobs, you cannot afford to ride the roller coaster emotionally, mentally, physically. You have to be consistent, because nothing else around you and no one else around you is. And so he taught me that. Like, I got to watch him do that. It was like a learning lab of excellence. And so I think there's other things. His consistency was also what he said he did. The standard he set, he held everybody accountable to it, no matter who they were within the team or the organization. So the best player, he had a great NFL level player that he removed from the team in his first year because the student athlete wasn't fitting the standard. He just walked his talk, and he was so connected with what he was about, what he wanted to do, the impact he wanted to have in his lifetime. He lived that in the way that he coached and taught. And I'm not sure if I would have said yes to being the AD at Washington if it wouldn't have been for him, because just like a lot of people are struggling right now with the current landscape of college sports, right? You're hearing it, I'm hearing it. Everybody's like, what is this? I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I've heard that from more people. And he reminded me at a time where I was questioning that too, that you can still have a North Star based on values that are pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And, one of my mentors was the great Gene Corrigan, who passed away just about 2 years ago now. And he used to always say, be yourself. If you're not yourself, people will see through you.
Yeah.
Be consistent. Everybody is looking to the leader to be consistent. And he used to say, take your job very serious, but don't take yourself very serious. And I remembered those things every day and how true they are.
I mean, just wisdom right there, right? You know, it's so true. You know, leadership is such a privilege. You know, it's like it's this concept of no matter how crazy it gets, to just be thinking about it as a get to, you know, versus a have to, right?
Right.
And I remember, I still to this day, there's plenty of times where I'll be walking around and I completely forget I'm the athletic director. I'm not kidding. Like, it'll be at a game or walking through the facilities or going into a meeting, because I try to actually not take myself so seriously. But the flip side to that, like you just said, is like the first time I realized people were reacting to my behavior, I remember just going, wait, oh, weird. Okay, this is what leadership at this level looks like. So, yeah, it takes a lot of intentionality and yet authenticity at the same time, which is, I think, for all of us can be a balancing act.
Yeah, very good. Jen, beside being a servant leader, what other things motivate you about the job?
Oh, to me, it's all about helping people bring their best selves, you know, through experiences, helping people become their fullest selves. And in the process, selfishly, like I get to keep growing too. So I love it so much because we're in a continuous improvement, continuous growth, no end in sight environment. And that goes back to my passion for competition. I mean, competition's awesome because somebody wins and somebody loses, and some days you're on the winning side and some days on your losing side. And you start to realize, like, oh man, there's no destination here. You know, this is about being in an environment where you have a lot of people that want to be great and excellence is promoted. And yet at the same time, you're in an environment where people know how hard competition is and they have the courage to compete. You know, there's nothing that drives me crazy more than people that sit on the sidelines with their commentary and don't actually fight in the arena. And so I love all that. And of course, like every athletic director, you wouldn't do this if you didn't love being around students and watching their growth. But gosh, I get so much out of the whole thing. The relationships, watching, you know, families grow, like with the donors that you know, and coach. I mean, just the whole environment is it's so interesting every day because it's never the same because we're in the people business and Gene, people are messy now.
Yes. Yeah.
People are messy. So you're solving problems and you're trying to, it's just never the same. It's just so challenging all the time. And this job has not gotten any easier since I've been in it.
No.
I mean, I feel like I'm learning and on my heels all the time on certain things.
You know what?
Oh, go ahead.
Sometimes as an AD, you'd come in and you'd say, gee, I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this. And you get there and a coach has a real issue or a player has gotten in trouble and you drop everything that you're doing and all of your efforts all go into that.
Yeah. I mean,
how often is that the case?
I'll be honest. I feel like for a lot of us, we have felt like we've been in continuous crisis management for 2 years. I mean, because the pandemic was like this relentless, especially if you're on, I mean, every part of the country is different. On the West Coast, it was relentless. The restrictions and other ways that we were managing it from a protocol standpoint. So then you have that with all the landscape changes in college athletics. And then you add on top of that, the traditional 911 fires that you're putting out every day because of you're dealing with students and people and employees and all of that. So I would say that every week there's something that changes my schedule in a way that I didn't anticipate. I will also say though, I think it's really important to like have like some built-in routines for your well-being, for your physical, your mental, your emotional, your spiritual. energy so that you can show up every day. And I think it's important to block off time, even if you don't know what's coming, to like just give yourself space in these positions as much as you can to just kind of mentally be prepared for whatever's coming, there's too many meetings and like it's just like we're not getting better when we do that. So I try to work on that all the time.
Jen, you brought up a good point. Being a director of athletics, being a coach, there's a tremendous amount of pressure and stress. How do you relax? Do you play golf? Do you walk?
Golf would not be relaxing for me. You should see me grip the club, man. I mean, golf is way too intense because I want to be good at it. So I do not golf a lot. I have a son who's a golfer. He's golfing at community college right now. But I have a combination of things. Like I think about, because a lot of times people think that you have to do big sweeping things to like create like a healthy life. One, I don't think about life balance at all. There is no balance in this. Balance is like some sort of percentages of something. This is just all consuming. So I talked about this before, but what I think about and assess is energy management. And so I do things that help me unwind and stay healthy and build perspective and joy and happiness. And I do it through physical activity. So working out, running, walking, nature, outdoors, meditation, prayer, journaling, gratitude work, time with friends, all those things. I take myself on what I call artist dates. This is my favorite author. Her name's Julia Cameron. And I try to find myself, 15 minutes could be an hour a week, where I take myself by myself somewhere interesting and different. It could be a bookstore that I've always wanted to see or a trail that I've never walked. But I try to build creativity into my life in ways. I just think the joy comes from the little things, not the big things.
I agree. And everybody finds a different way to escape some of it because the pressures are there. And as you said, it's not a balance. I mean, it's a lifestyle. Being a director of athletics is a lifestyle, and your spouse and your children hopefully buy in. And that's how you get a lot of family time at games and at practices and the like.
Yeah, I incorporate, I'm not married anymore. So that's been really hard. Just even just doing the job and not having a partner. I mean, I think these are lonely jobs. And so that has definitely, been a great growth opportunity for me individually to grow as a person. But also I think having a great partner is a big thing for a lot of people in these jobs. I always brought my kids to this thing, and like they've always been a part of it at every job I've had at Washington. I had both my boys during my career here at UW, and I try now as the leader of this place to be really, really A-okay and supportive of kids running around and being part of. We've had donor board meetings where I've had staff members with kids sitting in a corner with headphones on and watching a movie because they didn't have any childcare that day. And I just think that why work in college athletics if we can't embrace the family environment,
I agree. And I used to tell our coaches all the time, bring your children around, teach them how to be a role model, how to be a dad, how to be a mom.
Yeah.
Get the kids involved and leave your players with more than just instructions on how to play the game.
It's funny, when we hired Kalen DeBoer, our new football coach, we brought his family up to meet the team. We hired him and then flew on the same day up to Seattle to meet the team and then do the press conference. And his wife and 2 daughters came, and I loved him already. But when we went to go meet with the team, a lot of coaches would just go meet with the team. Well, he said, I'm meeting with the team, but I'm definitely bringing my wife and my daughters in with me to meet the team. And he introduced them and talked about his family in front of the guys. And I thought, like, I'd never seen a coach do that actually when they started like that. And I just thought that's so awesome. I mean, one, the guys on the team already could feel and understand how important family was to him. And like it was, and I thought it was just really important for his family. Big change, moving them out of California and all that, to already have that moment for themselves too. So I'm with you. I think we need to always incorporate. I mean, and it's harder for, I've hired almost all women coaches for women sports here at Washington. I think there's maybe only been one time that I haven't. And I will say it's hard for those moms that coach. And I like, we're starting to put, family travel and for female coaches and things like that. I do that for men's coaches too, if we need to. Like, I just think family is everything. And we can't lose sight of that in our highly competitive environments that we're in and the pressure that we're all under.
That's why people want to come and work for you, or work with you, because
you still want to work. I'm not sure.
You do. You know what? You do a great job with family. When I was an athletic director, people used to ask me, what are some of the most rewarding things in your career? And I would say, yeah, maybe the first time we beat Notre Dame in football, winning an ice hockey championship and all that. But some of the most rewarding things in my life were when we had a young guy by the name of Peter Spalding become the first the first Rhodes Scholar at Boston College. He was a member of our sailing team. I mean, that was so exciting. And there's so many other great stories like that they come to us as boys and girls, and they leave as men and women, and seeing them develop is so rewarding. Talk about some of the things that have been really rewarding in your career.
Yeah, I think it's so true. It's like there's those games and those moments, but the best feelings are when it is associated with people and your personal relationship with people. So I have so many little, they probably seem silly to you, but like, for example, during the Apple Cup last year, we just had such a brutal football season, and I had to let go a coach that, coached a lot of really great players, many that played in the league. And there were about 8 former players that came back, almost all of them playing the NFL. And they all sat in my suite for Apple Cup after everything that we just went through. And, just to see them be comfortable still being back and, feeling like it was still their home, like that's like powerful for me. Or, we have a football player that could have transferred and decided to stay. And he just, something as simple as he asked me, when he asked me to write his letter of rec for graduate school. And when I love doing that, when student athletes ask to like help them with the next step. And, I've helped a number of student athletes get into graduate school, and having them, I just love it when they come back. I think the other day I bought dinner for Miles Gasson and Race Porter and a bunch of our football players. I could finally buy dinner for them, and it wasn't illegal. And just to have them come over and give you a hug, like, this seems silly, but like, you do it because you love these kids, and you don't really know if they really understand the opportunities that are being presented, and when they leave and they come back and they get it a little bit more and still feel like they want to be part of what you're still building, that's pretty kick-ass.
That's a good way to put it right there. That's a good way to put it.
It feels good. And then I would also just say, I'm sure you feel this way too, but like, I mean, some of the relationships I've been with donors and supporters who have been like mothers and fathers to me, who, have given me the best business advice and personal advice, and who you share all these moments. And we have one of our top donors is a woman named Ann Gettinger, and she's very low profile. And even though her giving has just been unbelievable from an impact standpoint, but we always fly with her to games, and she lets me kind of fill the plane with different people, other coaches from other sports, other staff members, and win or lose, the music we play to, on the bus back to our plane, or the games we play on the plane, and the laughter and the tears. Oh, it's just magical to be able to share an experience with other people that care about something that you care about.
Oh, that's so good. So well said. Jen, is there anything else that you would like to say? I mean, I knew you were going to be awesome. I knew that. You are absolutely, totally amazing. This has been wonderful. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would like to say?
I think the only thing I would say, when you're asking the young Jen Cohen question, you ask the question about like, what young people always say, what can I do? How am I going to get there? I think the basics can get lost. And so something as simple as like your own credibility, like follow through on what you say you're going to do. Be that go-to person. I often describe it as like filling in the gaps, so instead of expecting other people to present some grand plan and the next thing for you, be the gap filler. I just really want to encourage that for everybody. It's really no different than even ADs. We still have work to do, and our presidents have other things that they're worried about. How do you fill a gap for your president? How do you fill a gap for your university? Like, I just think there's not a magic pill. I want to lose 20 pounds right now too. And there's no other way to do it besides tedious things to get there. And the work's no different. Just keep being that person that puts the organization and others first, bring your skills and talents and fill the gap. And there's like, you can do it. Like, people can do whatever they choose to do.
So I can't thank you enough for doing this. This is really great.
It's great that you're doing it.
There's a lot of women out there that are listening that really, really are going to be excited because you did it and they can do it. I think that's really important.
I think that I was talking to a young lady from Arizona State. She's getting her master's right now. I talked to her today. And I said, before we go, I just want to make sure the one thing you hear from me, if you don't hear anything else, is you can do this. And I think that's like what I always want to make sure is that people know that they can. Because a lot of people try to tell you that you can't, and you can.
You can, and you will, if you're willing to work hard enough. Yeah. We're out of time on this week's On the Fly College Edition. I'm your host, Gene DeFilippo. Thanks for your time this time, and we'll see you next time.